Most people trust Wall Street more than they trust the Word. They'll spend hours analyzing charts, but never 5 minutes asking God for direction. That's why so many portfolios look profitable but feel empty. Because no matter how high your returns climb, if your soul is bankrupt, you're still broke. The Bible was teaching investment principles long before brokers existed. Principles about stewardship, diversification, and eternal ROI that no financial advisor can replicate. What if the greatest investor in history isn't Warren Buffett or Ray Dalio, but God himself? Every sunrise is proof that he knows how to manage cycles. Every harvest shows that he understands compounding. Every promise kept reveals that his timing is perfect. And if he's that good with the universe, imagine what he could do with your business, your money, and your future. The problem is, most people manage divine resources like human ones, chasing speed instead of substance, trends instead of truth. But God's portfolio doesn't depend on market sentiment. It's built on faith, order, and wisdom. When you align your financial life with heaven's investment model, you don't just make money, you make impact. Because in God's system, wealth isn't measured by what you keep, but by what you can be trusted to release. If you've ever felt that your finances lack purpose, that your business isn't reflecting your calling, or that you've been sowing but not seeing fruit, this message is for you. God is inviting you to rebuild your portfolio on His principles so your profits carry eternal weight. If you like our content, consider supporting our ministry through the link in the description. Because in this teaching, you're not just going to learn how to manage your money, you're going to discover how to partner with heaven's financial system, where obedience always outperforms the market, and purpose always pays the highest dividends. The foundation of God's portfolio. Every great investor starts with a foundation, and God is no different. Before there was gold, land, or business, there was order, purpose, and wisdom. Proverbs 24:3 says, "By wisdom a house is built, and through understanding it is established." That's the same principle behind every divine investment. God's portfolio doesn't start with money, it starts with meaning. He invests in what multiplies eternity, not just numbers on a screen. That's why a believer's first asset isn't cash, but conviction. When people think about how to make money, they often begin with strategy. But in God's economy, strategy comes second to stewardship. The Lord looks for hearts that know how to manage little before He releases much. Jesus confirmed this in Luke 16:10. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. The foundation of God's portfolio, then, is trust. Trust between Creator and creation. Without it, no business, no investment, no empire can stand. Think of it this way. Before you build a skyscraper, you dig deep. The taller the building, the deeper the foundation. In the same way, before God raises your financial life, He strengthens your character. That's why some people pray for abundance but never receive it. They're asking for skyscraper blessings on a sandbox foundation. Money doesn't reveal who you want to be, it reveals who you already are. And here's the irony. When you stop chasing money, it starts chasing you. God's system rewards alignment, not ambition. A person who invests their time, faith, and integrity will always outperform someone who invests only dollars. That's the divine compounding effect. When your motives align with heaven's purpose, even small seeds produce supernatural returns. In practical terms, this means every financial plan must begin in prayer, not profit. Ask yourself, what is God's goal for this money? Maybe it's to build a business that blesses families, or to fund ministries that heal hearts. When purpose defines the portfolio, performance follows naturally. So before we even talk about stocks, real estate, or entrepreneurship, we must build the base: faith, wisdom, and obedience. That's the foundation of God's portfolio. Because if you get this right, everything that comes after will multiply effortlessly, like a tree planted by streams of living water. And what God's about to reveal next will change the way you see risk forever. Diversify, like the Creator, how heaven balances risk and reward. When God created the world, He didn't invest everything in one place. He made light and darkness, land and sea, man and woman, all working in balance. That's divine diversification. Ecclesiastes 11:2 says, "Invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land." God's portfolio teaches us that spreading resources is not fear, it's wisdom. Even heaven balances risk and reward through diversity, because creation itself reflects variety as a form of stability. In today's world of business, investors chase the next big win, pouring all their money into one opportunity. But the Creator's method has always been layered. God never depended on one source of provision. He designed rivers to feed the same garden from different directions. That means your business, your income, and your purpose should have multiple streams too. Don't just make money in one area. Create flow through ideas, service, and faith. That's how divine economies stay alive during crisis. Think about Joseph in Genesis. God gave him not just one skill but many: management, interpretation, leadership, and stewardship. When famine came, Joseph didn't panic. He had already diversified Egypt's wealth through storage, trade, and vision. The result? The kingdom didn't collapse, it thrived while others starved. True investors learn this early. God blesses not the reckless, but the prepared. In the marketplace, diversification looks like spreading your resources across industries and time frames. In the spiritual sense, it means investing your energy not only in business, but in relationships, service, and learning. Read Proverbs daily. It's heaven's risk management manual. If one area falters, another sustains you. The enemy wants believers to depend on a single stream so he can block it easily, but God gives multiple channels of blessing. Financially, this could mean combining long-term investments like index funds with kingdom-driven ventures that create jobs and impact. It could mean balancing savings with generosity, business growth with Sabbath rest. Because in heaven's system, you're not just measured by what you gain, but also by what you give. God's investors know that generosity is also diversification. It multiplies your spiritual ROI. So when you build your portfolio, mirror the Creator. Don't gamble everything on one idea. Build multiple roots that draw from different wells. Because divine diversification doesn't dilute your success, it protects it. And soon, you'll discover that God's strategy for managing risk leads to something far greater than financial gain. Divine management: how God entrusts and multiplies resources. In God's economy, management always comes before multiplication. Before He gives increase, He tests stewardship. In the parable of the talents, Matthew 25:14-30, the master distributed resources according to each servant's ability, not their desire. The one who managed well received more. The one who buried his gift lost everything. That's how heaven operates. God never multiplies mismanagement. You can pray for financial growth all you want, but if your current level of stewardship is broken, divine expansion won't arrive. Think about it. God created Adam, then gave him Eden, not as an ornament, but as an assignment. The Lord God took the man and put him in the garden to work it and take care of it. Genesis 2:15. Adam was the first portfolio manager in history. He didn't own Eden, but he was responsible for its productivity. That's the biblical blueprint for business. You don't own money, you manage it for God's purposes. Every dollar in your account is a divine seed waiting for instruction. The reason many people feel stuck financially is because they treat what they have as a possession, not a trust. They ask for more harvest but ignore the weeds choking their current field. Poor planning, impulse spending, or lack of order. God's multiplication always begins with clarity. If you can't manage $100 with discipline, you won't manage $10,000 with grace. Divine management is less about the amount and more about the alignment. Practical management in God's system means planning with prayer. Create a budget, but also create boundaries. Build business goals, but leave margin for rest. If you're an entrepreneur, start tracking your inflows and outflows, not because you fear lack, but because you honor order. Remember 1 Corinthians 14:40. Let all things be done decently and in order. Heaven blesses structure. Every miracle in the Bible followed organization. Even when Jesus fed the 5,000, He first told them to sit in groups. So what does it mean to manage resources like God? It means being faithful with time, talent, and treasure. Time wasted is opportunity lost. Talent hidden is purpose delayed. And treasure misused is blessing postponed. God's system multiplies what's respected and reduces what's neglected. The Master never rewards laziness disguised as faith. He honors excellence fueled by trust. When you begin to manage resources as sacred assignments instead of personal trophies, everything changes. You stop asking, "How can I make more money?" and start asking, "How can I serve God better with what I already have?" And that's when heaven opens doors no strategy could unlock. Because the next stage in God's portfolio isn't about how much you hold, but how much He can trust you with next. The hidden assets: wisdom, patience, and integrity. In a world obsessed with returns and quick profits, heaven values something entirely different: the invisible assets. Proverbs 3:13 declares, "Blessed are those who find wisdom, those who gain understanding." In God's portfolio, Wisdom is more profitable than gold and more stable than any stock market. While investors chase trends, the wise build legacies. Wisdom helps you see what the crowd ignores, to wait when others panic and to act when fear freezes everyone else. It's the divine compass that keeps you from losing your soul while growing your business. Patience is another underestimated asset. In the natural market, it's called long-term investing. In God's kingdom, it's called faith. James 5:7 says, "Be patient then, brothers and sisters, until the Lord's coming. See how the farmer waits for the land to yield its valuable crop." Rushing your financial journey is like digging up seeds to see if they're growing. You kill the harvest before it matures. God doesn't delay to punish, He delays to prepare. Patience is heaven's way of building your capacity for abundance. Integrity, though, is the glue that holds every other asset together. Without it, wisdom becomes manipulation and patience becomes laziness. Psalm 112:5 says, "Good will come to those who are generous and lend freely, who conduct their affairs with justice." God's financial system runs on trust, not tricks. In business, your integrity is your credit score in heaven. You might win short-term gains by cutting corners, but you'll lose long-term favor. The market rewards results. God rewards righteousness. Let's make this practical. Maybe you're building a company, negotiating a deal, or saving for the future. Before signing any contract, pray for discernment. Before saying yes to a partnership, ask if it aligns with your principles. The world says, do whatever it takes to make money. God says, do everything with honor and I'll make it multiply. Wisdom guides your strategy, patience refines your timing, and integrity guarantees sustainability. Every kingdom investor learns that not all assets can be measured. Wisdom attracts opportunities that money can't buy. Patience shields you from regrets you can't afford. Integrity preserves your reputation when storms hit. These three, wisdom, patience, and integrity, are heaven's version of compound interest. They may grow slowly, but their returns last forever. So if you feel unseen, undervalued, or overlooked, remember this: God is still adding value to your hidden assets. Every quiet act of integrity, every patient decision, every wise choice. It's all recorded in heaven's balance sheet. And soon you'll see that what the world calls delay, God calls preparation, for a return that no earthly market can match. Heaven's ROI, reaping what you sow in life and business. Every investor understands the concept of return on investment, or ROI, but heaven measures returns differently. Galatians 6:7 reminds us, "Do not be deceived, God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows." In God's economy, everything you give, time, effort, faith, or generosity, becomes seed. The soil may look ordinary, but the yield depends on obedience. Heaven's ROI isn't about doubling your money, it's about multiplying your impact. When you sow with the right heart, you reap blessings that outlive the transaction. Think about how the kingdom operates. You sow mercy, you reap favor. You sow diligence, you reap promotion. You sow generosity, you reap provision. The world teaches profit through pressure. God teaches profit through principle. That's why the most successful kingdom entrepreneurs don't chase quick wins. They invest in lasting value. They understand that God tracks faithfulness long after the deal closes. In His system, even unseen efforts produce visible results. In business, this means aligning your motives with eternal outcomes. Are you building something that feeds others or only yourself? Are your profits clean before God's eyes? Heaven's portfolio never rewards greed disguised as growth. When you make decisions that prioritize people over percentages, God multiplies your favor beyond what calculators can compute. Luke 6:38 promises it clearly. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Let's make this practical. If you own a company, pay your employees fairly. If you lead a team, serve them before you lead them. If you earn a paycheck, tithe before you spend. These actions are spiritual investments, deposits in heaven's treasury. And here's the mystery. When you give to God's purpose, you never lose. You simply change accounts, moving from earthly to eternal. That's why the generous never truly lack. Their ROI compounds in both realms. Every seed has timing. Farmers don't plant today and harvest tomorrow. They wait, water, and work the soil. The same applies to your financial life. Some seeds will sprout quickly, others may take years, but none go unnoticed. God doesn't forget your generosity, your discipline, or your sacrifice. The return may not come in cash, but it will come in peace, opportunities, and protection. That's heaven's way of balancing the books. So stop judging your progress by the world's numbers. Your real return isn't in the bank. It's in the breakthroughs God is preparing. Every act of faith is accruing interest in eternity. Because in God's portfolio, the highest yield comes not from how much you made, but from how much good you've done with what you were given. And what comes next will show why eternal investments outperform every market on earth. Eternal returns. Building wealth that outlives you. Every empire eventually falls, but eternal wealth never fades. Jesus said in Matthew 6:19-20, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven." That's not a call to reject money. It's a command to redirect it. God doesn't mind you building wealth. He minds when wealth stops building you. The true investor doesn't just count profits but legacies. Earthly portfolios measure performance by quarterly gains. God's portfolio measures it by eternal impact. The kingdom entrepreneur thinks in centuries, not seasons. Every act of generosity, every life changed through your business, every resource used for His glory. That's compound interest in heaven. When you give to a cause that aligns with God's heart, you're investing in something inflation can't touch. The yield is measured in souls, not cents. Think of Abraham. God promised him descendants as numerous as the stars. But his first investment wasn't children. It was obedience. He left comfort for covenant. Because of that, his spiritual equity still pays dividends today. Every time someone walks by faith, Abraham's legacy grows. That's what eternal return looks like. One act of obedience that keeps multiplying across generations. Practically speaking, building eternal wealth means designing your financial life around purpose. Give strategically. Build businesses that serve, not exploit. Mentor younger entrepreneurs, write books, or create products that teach biblical stewardship. That's how you make money talk, by turning it into ministry. Because at the end of your life, God won't ask your net worth, He'll ask your eternal impact. The world's system praises accumulation. God's system honors allocation. He gives more to those who know how to release more. Your greatest asset isn't your portfolio, it's your purpose. The moment you use money to serve that purpose, you shift from consumer to kingdom builder. You stop living for income and start living for influence, the kind that never depreciates. Eternal wealth is built quietly. It's not flashy, but it's unstoppable. Every seed sown into eternity grows in secret until the harvest is revealed. And one day, when you stand before the Master, the return on your investment will be measured not in dollars, but in destinies changed. Because in God's portfolio, the greatest profit is to hear, "Well done, good and faithful servant." But before that moment comes, there's one more principle every investor must understand: the final audit of heaven's accounts. The final audit. When God reviews your financial faithfulness, every investor faces an audit. But God's audit is eternal. Romans 14:12 says, "So then each of us will give an account of ourselves to God." One day, the books of heaven will open, and every transaction of faith, every act of stewardship, every seed sown in obedience will be reviewed. God's not checking for perfection. He's looking for purpose. He doesn't measure success by how much money you made, but by how faithfully you managed what He gave. Imagine this: your entire life as a divine balance sheet. On one side, what you earned, saved, and built; on the other, what you gave, taught, and transformed. Heaven's audit doesn't calculate interest. It weighs intentions. Did your business honor God's principles? Did your profits bless others? Did you use your influence to multiply His kingdom or your comfort? These are the eternal metrics that define real success. The parable of the talents paints this scene vividly. When the master returned, he didn't ask, "How much did you make?" He asked, "What did you do with what I gave you?" The servants who multiplied their talents heard the greatest words in Scripture: "Well done, good and faithful servant." The one who hid his gift heard silence, the costliest loss of all. In God's audit, hiding potential is the same as losing profit. But here's the grace in it. God's review is not meant to condemn but to promote. Every test of stewardship is preparation for greater responsibility. Luke 19:17 says, "Because you have been trustworthy in a very small matter, take charge of 10 cities." That's divine scalability. Faithful management leads to kingdom expansion. The better you handle your resources on earth, the more authority you gain in eternity. So conduct your business as if heaven's CFO were sitting in your meetings. Because He is. Keep clean books. Be generous without agenda. Serve people, not profits. Pray before every deal and give God the final say in every decision. Your integrity is your eternal audit trail. When others cheat the system, let your honesty be your dividend. Because in the end, you won't stand before shareholders. You'll stand before the shepherd. When that final day comes, your money will stay behind, but your faithfulness will follow you. Every sacrifice, every offering, every wise decision will testify on your behalf. And when heaven's report is read aloud, may it show not a perfect investor, but a faithful one. Someone who turned wealth into worship and profit into purpose. Because that's the moment every kingdom entrepreneur lives for, to hear the divine approval that echoes through eternity. Now that you've seen how God builds his portfolio, the question is, what are you doing with yours? Are you investing only in things that perish? Or are you building something that will echo in eternity? Every paycheck, every deal, every decision is a spiritual transaction. You're either funding fear or fueling faith. The Bible never said money was evil. It said the love of it blinds you to purpose. But when you make God the CEO of your finances, even your smallest seed can fund a miracle. Maybe it's time to audit your heart the same way you audit your accounts. Where is your trust really invested? In the market? In your hustle? Or in the master? Because sooner or later, the final review comes, and the numbers won't matter. Faithfulness will. Start today. Redirect your profits, your time, and your talents toward eternal outcomes. You don't need to be rich to invest like God. You just need to be faithful with what you have. Write in the comments, "I invest my money with heaven's principles," and watch how this powerful declaration begins to shift the course of your business and your finances from this day forward. And now look at your life like a divine balance sheet. What you've gained in the world versus what you've sown for eternity. Don't let fear keep you from building the future God already promised. Remember, you're not just an investor in the market, you're an investor in the kingdom. If this message touched your spirit, consider supporting our ministry through the link in the description, subscribe to this channel, and turn on notifications. Let's keep learning how to make money work for your mission, not against it. Because the greatest portfolio is the one that funds heaven's purpose on earth.